I cheated on my fiance during my Bachelorette weekend and now I'm pregnant with another man's baby, and my ex-fiance cancelled our wedding then posted the paternity results online for everyone to see. I threw away 5 years with the love of my life for one night with a stranger, and now I'm raising his child alone while my ex builds the family we were supposed to have with someone who deserves him. I'm Melissa, 26, was engaged to David, 28, after 5 years together. We met in college, moved in together after graduation, and built what I thought was a perfect relationship. David was everything I'd ever wanted: kind, stable, ambitious, and completely devoted to me. Our wedding was planned for October, everything booked and paid for. The bachelorette party was in Las Vegas, organized by my maid of honor Lisa, who wanted to give me one last wild weekend before I became a married woman. I wasn't particularly excited about the trip, but everyone said it was tradition, and I needed to celebrate this milestone with my girls. Vegas was overwhelming from the moment we arrived. The energy was intoxicating, the drinks were strong, and everyone kept pushing me to let loose and enjoy my last days of freedom. My friends treated it like I was going to prison instead of marrying the man I loved, constantly joking about how I'd never have fun again. We spent the first night at expensive clubs, drinking way too much and dancing until my feet hurt. I kept thinking about David back home, probably playing video games with his friends and missing me. I felt guilty for being out partying while he was being responsible, but my friends kept ordering shots and telling me to stop being boring. The second night was when everything went wrong. We were at a rooftop bar when I met Jake, a guy visiting from Denver with his own bachelor party group. He was attractive and charming, completely different from David's quiet confidence. Jake was loud, funny, the kind of guy who commanded attention just by walking into a room. Jake started buying our table drinks and flirting with me specifically, even though I mentioned I was getting married in 2 months. He said something about how lucky my fiancé was and how he hoped David appreciated what he had. The attention felt incredible after feeling overlooked all weekend by my own friends. My friends were encouraging the flirtation, saying it was harmless fun and that I deserved to feel desired before settling down forever. They kept making comments about how I'd never get attention from attractive men again once I was married, that this was my last chance to feel wanted by someone new. The alcohol was affecting my judgment more than usual. I wasn't eating enough, was dehydrated from the desert heat, and had been drinking for hours. Jake kept ordering expensive cocktails and convincing me to try different things, and I was too drunk to pace myself properly. When Jake suggested we go back to his hotel room to continue the party, I should have said no. Should have thought about David, about our wedding, about the future we were building together. Instead, I let my friends convince me it would be fun to see his suite, that nothing had to happen, that I could handle myself. Jake's room was incredible, a penthouse suite with views of the strip and expensive furniture everywhere. He poured more drinks and put on music, and the atmosphere felt romantic and exciting in ways that scared me. I knew I should leave, but the combination of alcohol and attention made rational thinking impossible. The sex happened faster than I expected. One moment we were talking on his couch, the next we were in his bedroom with my dress on the floor. Jake was passionate and intense, completely different from the gentle intimacy I shared with David. It felt dangerous and thrilling, like I was someone else entirely. Afterward, lying in Jake's bed while he slept, the guilt hit me like a physical blow. I cheated on David 3 weeks before our wedding. I betrayed the man who trusted me completely, who was probably at home looking at our wedding photos and counting down the days until I became his wife. I snuck out of Jake's room before dawn and went back to my hotel, where my friends were nursing hangovers, and asking minimal questions about where I'd spent the night. I told them I'd gone back to my own room early, and they seemed to accept the explanation without pushing for details. The flight home was torture. Sitting on the plane, thinking about seeing David at the airport, I felt like the worst person alive. I destroyed our relationship for one night with someone whose last name I didn't even know, someone I'd never see again. I decided to keep it secret. David didn't need to know about my mistake, and telling him would only hurt him unnecessarily. I'd be the perfect fiancé from now on, make up for my betrayal by being extra loving and attentive, ensure our marriage was strong enough to survive what he'd never find out. David picked me up from the airport with flowers and a huge smile, excited to hear about my trip and eager to continue our wedding planning. His happiness made the guilt unbearable, but I smiled and told him about the shows we'd seen and the restaurants we'd visited, leaving out the most important part. For 3 weeks, I managed to convince myself that everything would be fine. I threw myself into wedding preparations, was extra affectionate with David, and almost succeeded in forgetting that Vegas had ever happened. We finalized our guest list, confirmed details with vendors, and David started talking about our honeymoon with genuine excitement. Then I missed my period. At first, I thought it was stress from wedding planning, but when another week passed, I took a pregnancy test. The positive result felt like a death sentence because I knew the timeline didn't match up with David's biology. David and I had been intimate before I left for Vegas, But we'd used protection because we wanted to wait until after the wedding to start trying for children. Jake and I hadn't used anything because I was too drunk to think clearly and he didn't suggest it. I took 3 more tests, all positive. I was definitely pregnant, and the timing made it clear that Jake was the father. I was carrying a stranger's baby while planning a wedding to a man who thought we were starting our family together after marriage. I considered my options, but David had strong feelings about children and would want to know about any pregnancy immediately. I couldn't hide this from him, couldn't pretend the baby was his when the dates didn't work, couldn't get an abortion without him wondering why I was sick and emotional. I had to tell him the truth. 3 weeks before our wedding, with 200 guests planning to attend, vendors already paid, and David's parents flying in from across the country, I had to confess that I cheated and was pregnant with another man's child. I chose a quiet evening when David was relaxed and happy, talking about our future together and showing me photos from his friend's recent wedding. Looking at his trusting face, knowing I was about to destroy everything he believed about our relationship, I felt like a monster. When I told him about Vegas, about Jake, about the pregnancy, I watched David's entire world crumble in real time. He didn't yell or throw things. He just stared at me like I was a stranger, asking quiet questions about timing and details that confirmed his worst fears. The hardest part was watching him do the math in his head, realizing that not only had I cheated, but I was carrying proof of my betrayal that would last forever. Now I'm pregnant with another man's baby, and my ex-fiance canceled our wedding, then posted the paternity results online for everyone to see. David moved out that night and canceled our wedding the next morning. He handled the logistics with devastating efficiency, called the venue, notified guests, canceled vendors, and returned gifts while I sat in our empty apartment trying to process that my entire future had disappeared in 24 hours. The pregnancy made everything worse. I wasn't just dealing with a broken engagement but also carrying a daily reminder of the worst decision I'd ever made. Every doctor's appointment, every pregnancy symptom, every stranger asking about the baby's father was a fresh humiliation. David insisted on a paternity test as soon as it was medically possible, not because he doubted my story but because he needed definitive proof for the divorce proceedings. When the results confirmed that Jake was the father, David posted them on social media with a simple caption about why our wedding had been canceled. The post went viral within hours. David had been careful not to name me directly, but everyone in our social circle knew exactly what had happened. The screenshot spread across platforms, turning my cheating and pregnancy into entertainment for strangers who loved watching someone's life fall apart publicly. My family was devastated. My parents had loved David like a son and were looking forward to our wedding more than anyone. When they learned I cheated and was pregnant with someone else's baby, my mother cried for hours while my father just shook his head in disappointment. The job situation became impossible quickly. I worked at a small marketing firm where everyone knew about my engagement and upcoming wedding. When the paternity results went viral, my colleagues treated me like a cautionary tale. I resigned before they could make my life more miserable. Finding new employment while visibly pregnant and internet famous for cheating proved nearly impossible. Potential employers would Google my name and find the paternity results within minutes. I was the woman who cheated on her fiance during her bachelorette party and got pregnant, a story that had spread far beyond my personal circle. The financial stress was crushing. David had been the higher earner, and now I was supporting myself and preparing for a baby on savings alone. The wedding expenses we'd split became my responsibility entirely, adding thousands in debt to my already precarious situation. I tried to contact Jake through social media, hoping he might want to be involved with his biological child. He never responded to my messages. I found out later through mutual friends that he was married with kids of his own, and my pregnancy was an unwanted complication he'd chosen to ignore completely. The pregnancy progressed alone. No partner to attend doctor's appointments, no one to help assemble baby furniture, no emotional support during the difficult moments. I'd gone from planning a wedding and imagining starting a family with David to facing single motherhood with a child whose father wanted nothing to do with us. David started dating someone new 6 months after our breakup. Her name was Amy, and she was everything I wasn't: trustworthy, stable, someone who would never humiliate him publicly. Seeing their photos together on social media was devastating because he looked genuinely happy, like he'd been freed from a burden. The baby was born 8 months after our cancelled wedding date. She was healthy and beautiful, but holding her felt bittersweet knowing she was the reason I'd lost everything else. Every milestone was tainted by the knowledge that her existence represented the destruction of my previous life. My daughter Emma looks exactly like Jake, which makes moving on impossible. Every day I see the face of the man who helped destroy my engagement, and Emma will grow up knowing her father wanted nothing to do with her existence. David got engaged to Amy 2 years after our breakup. They had the wedding I'd planned, in the same venue I'd chosen, with many of the same guests who would have attended ours. The photos showed a celebration of two people who deserved happiness together, unlike the drama-filled disaster our wedding would have been. Dating became impossible with a toddler and a viral backstory. Men my age either knew about my internet infamy or discovered it quickly. Those who didn't care about the cheating were often put off by single motherhood, and those who accepted the child were usually troubled by how she came to exist. The financial strain never eased. Childcare costs, medical expenses, and daily necessities for Emma consumed my limited income. I had to move in with my parents, becoming a cautionary tale in my hometown about what happens when you throw away a good relationship for one night of excitement. Emma started asking about her father when she turned 3. Explaining that daddy lives far away and doesn't visit became increasingly difficult as she got older. How do you tell a child that she exists because mommy made a terrible mistake that destroyed her chance at having a real family? The viral post about the paternity results resurfaces periodically, ensuring I can never fully escape the humiliation. Just when I think people have forgotten, someone shares it again, and the cycle of recognition and judgment starts over. My friends from the Bachelorette party gradually distanced themselves from me. They were embarrassed to be associated with someone who'd become internet infamous, and most of them attended David's wedding to Amy while cutting me out of their lives entirely. 5 years later, I'm still dealing with the consequences. I'm a single mother working multiple part-time jobs, living with my parents, while David and Amy have built the life I was supposed to have. They bought a house, had children together, and created the stable family I destroyed for one night in Vegas. Jake never acknowledged Emma's existence. He got to return to his normal life while I faced permanent consequences of our encounter. Emma will grow up knowing her father chose to pretend she doesn't exist rather than take any responsibility for her. The worst part is knowing that Emma deserves better than the circumstances I created for her. She deserves a father who wants her, a stable home, and a mother who didn't destroy her own life before she was even born. I traded 5 years with a man who loved me completely for one night with someone who forgot I existed. Now I raise the evidence of that choice alone while watching my ex-fiancé live the future we were supposed to share with someone who would never betray him the way